We are back on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio, News Talk 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1180, 1410 KRI, 1410 KRI, and in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 1000 KKIM. Boy, it's been one of those mornings, Brian.
Oh, you're doing great. It's a wonderful morning.
Our guest by phone is Brian Johnston, the Regional Director for the National Right to Life, and he is also the Director of Life Fest. But before we talk about Life Fest, Brian wanted to bring up a bill that's up in Sacramento.
I do want Californians to realize that the abortion industry is expanding, if that's at all possible, but it is. And what they're doing is they're trying to expand the number of abortionists by no longer requiring that it be a surgeon. Now, in California, you can't do an abortion on an animal unless a surgeon is doing it, a veterinary surgeon. However, the abortion industry wants to now license nurse midwives and nurse practitioners and create a whole new universe of new abortionists. And this is in spite of studies that have shown that when nurse midwives have done it, there's more complications.
Oh, of course there would be, sure.
Yeah, and here's the other issue is that the reason that, again, I'm not justifying the abortion being done, but the reason that a surgeon has done it is that there's often complications, and you need to have someone there that can now deal with the new victim, the mother,
right,
who has been a perforated uterus. There's a lot of, you and I both remember that Bernard Nathanson,
yes,
he was very clear just how dangerous, and one of the reasons he left the industry is that the tools they use, they go in blindly to try to find that baby, and it very often results in huge complications. Well, at any rate, AB 154 is racing through the California legislature as we speak.
AB 154. Okay.
AB 154. We know that the Bakersfield delegation will vote well on this. Shannon Grove is clearly opposed to it, and other members of the legislature there. But you should still be aware that this is happening and urge your state legislators to oppose AB 154. Its whole purpose is to expand the number of abortionists exponentially, because even doctors don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
These are you might say, the bottom feeders of the medical profession.
Sure.
So they're trying to find new abortionists, and AB 154 would allow them to do that.
Now, our listenership is far beyond Kern County. This obviously doesn't apply to New Mexico, at least not this particular bill. And like you mentioned, Brian, as far as Kern County, Shannon Grove is right with us on this, so no problem there. But if you're listening and you're in any other part of California, and I hate to play politics, but if your assembly person is a Democrat, you really want to get on the horn with them, because that's the person that's going to be voting for this. So make sure your opinion is heard with your assembly people, because this is something horrendous. We do not want this to pass.
Yeah, and the way California goes, it influences the nation. So we really do want to make sure that these women have the protection of having a surgeon at the very least doing this thing, because it's a terrible procedure. It has great risk for the mother. Sure it is.
And unfortunately, with the 2/3 supermajority that the Democrats have in Sacramento, as you know, I was up there last week, and it's horrendous. It's horrendous what's going on up there. And anybody who talks against the status quo up there is, given an office in a corner, and it's
that's right.
Sure. So it's not a very good situation up there for those of us that are pro-life and pro-family values here in California.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
But so let's...
Good news. Yeah, the good news of Life Fest Film Festival.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that. Now, you're also the director of Life Fest. And
I think, so as an avocation, I don't golf, and so I have, some my recreational time.
But Brian, you do bike ride. You and I established the other day, right?
True. That's right. I do some road biking when I get a chance. I haven't for a while, and so I feel around the midsection, but I got to get back on the.
We're gonna have to go down to Santa Monica and hit the bike path down there.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, I am often down Santa Monica, and it is on the west side where Life Fest Film Festival will take place.
Well, tell us the history of Life Fest. Tell us the history of Life Fest.
Well, basically, we all know this, that our culture is dramatically influenced by the television set, by the film screen. And it's only becoming more influenced by that moving image. But where it's appearing is changing. Literally, I'm speaking to you now on my smartphone. But most of our culture, I have a hard time doing it, but the younger people in our culture, that's where they're watching their movies, or on their laptop. And in fact, I used to teach high school English, and the reality is that our culture is a post-literate culture. What was it Mark Twain said? There's only one thing worse than not being able to read, and that's being able to read, but not. And that's what our culture is doing, that we aren't getting our values from what we read. We tend to get our values and our ideas from that moving picture screen, however big or small it might be. So Light Fest Film Festival is dedicated to celebrating those films that affirm the dignity and value of every human life. And there's really two target audiences. There are people, believe it or not, in the film industry that are pro-life, but they keep a very low profile because it's a very, very, you think Sacramento's a tough culture, politically speaking. The Hollywood culture can be a very tough culture to work in and to stand for good values in. And so we want to be able to encourage those folks, and we've talked about some of them in the past. Clint Howard, Ron's brother. Now, it's interesting. Those are great. It's a great family. Ron is very much a lefty, and Clint tends to fall on the exact opposite side. And Clint is a supporter. Ben Stein. Many people know the name Ben Stein. There's other folks that we tend to look. Patricia Heaton. But one of the things that people don't realize, those are just the stars and the faces that you see on screen. But the industry that's only 10% of the industry, really, the actors that you see. 90% of what happens on that screen is really caused by people you never see. And so we want to reach those people as well, the lawyers and the writers and the producers and even the crew.
Well, you had a really big name last year. Wasn't Martin Sheen involved in a film?
Well, we intentionally had Martin didn't show up. His brother did. Mm-hmm. Joe Estevez is his brother and could pass for his. In fact, Joe Estevez did pass for his twin years ago. In what was that film? That was a Vietnam era film, Heart of Darkness. I mean,
no, one with Marlon
Brando.
Now. Apocalypse Now. Yeah.
Yeah, Apocalypse Now, which was based on Conrad's book, Heart of Darkness. But several of those scenes actually were not Martin Sheen, but were actually Joe Estevez's brother.
Oh, I didn't know that, because I know he had a heart attack during the filming of that film.
There was a lot of issues, apparently, in that film. That was kind of a nightmare film from what I've heard.
Yes.
But the reason we honored Martin Sheen was really very specific, is that he is known as a lefty. But where he has broken with the left is on the issue of life, on the issue of abortion, and the issue of euthanasia. And he's been outspoken. He actually cut some ads for a Washington campaign that was trying to legalize euthanasia there. So that is something we wanted to honor, because that takes guts.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, the peer pressure is really what they use in that industry. So we wanted to show people on the left, if they felt compelled, they had to be lefties for other reasons, that they could still be pro-life. And that's why Martin was honored. He actually, it was for his commitments and statements, but also there was a film he was in that his son, Emilio Estevez, had made. It's called The Way. And in The Way, it's a very interesting, kind of a low-key film, but it was a good film, and it did have these very strong pro-life themes and undercurrents, which was very, very much appreciated. And I think that's actually the best way to get a message across, is to not hit people over the head with the message, but actually have it implicit in the story. And that really is, if you look at that, is how Hollywood influences people, implicitly, not by preaching at them constantly.
Yep.
So that's an important part of storytelling, and that's what The Way did. And then the other film we honored last year was called October Baby, which I think people may have seen or heard. I would encourage, still available. An excellent film. This year we have a whole. That's the thing about these film festivals. I'm realizing it's a huge undertaking.
Yep, Brian. When we come back from the break, let's talk about this year's films. Okay?
You got it.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio News Talk 1180.